Last week on Legally Kidnapped.
Good evening. Our top story this week. In New York, the FBI reopens an investigation into the first kid whose portrait was featured on a milk carton after receiving new information that his remains may be found in the basement of a building. In California this week, an audit reveals that 40% of Los Angeles CPS agents were improperly paid mileage reimbursements from taxpayers on the days they did not work. The state of Oklahoma is being overbilled for out-of-state experts who are overseeing the court-ordered child welfare reforms. A new report from First Focus in Washington, D.C. estimates that more than 8 million children were hurt by the U.S. foreclosure crisis. The Missouri legislature wants to slash millions of dollars from their state's foster care system. And in Arizona, a proposed budget would slash funding for their out-of-control foster care system by 60%. In Florida, a mother whose baby died while she was serving a year for shoplifting is upset because she hasn't been able to see her son or case manager since, and the family's efforts to get him out of foster care until her release have been futile. Bill in Missouri suggests requiring foster kids to visit a college before they age out of care. In Georgia, the courts are allowing more parents to flee the state with their kids after a divorce, suggesting that virtual visitation with the kids over a computer is an acceptable alternative to real visitations. In Minnesota, the House passes a bill that would give equal custody to both parents after a divorce. And in New Hampshire, the chairman of the House Redress of Grievance Committee fires back after the Attorney General accuses them of harassing CPS agents who destroy families for fun and profit by holding an inquiry into the practice. In India this week, the government is still saying that they're going to crack down on illegal orphanages. And in Holland, a sperm donor who donates by sleeping with childless women for free is under fire after fathering 82 children. In Canada, the government tries to throw out a lawsuit in a case where a foster mother is suing after catching hepatitis C from a drugged-up foster kid. Canadian mothers who are victims of the country's forced adoption scandal are still trying to get the government to do an inquiry into the issue. A family from Alberta is still seeking answers to why their kid died in the province's foster care system a year after it happened. And a 15-year-old from Saskatchewan goes missing from his foster home, while a dramatic increase in the number of children being snatched is putting a strain on the country's foster care system. A British social worker is in hot water after failing to do her job by monitoring 16 kids who could have been victims of abuse. A British lawyer is demanding a public inquiry into claims of physical and sexual abuse at a boys' home from the 1960s to the 1990s. 2 kids who were adopted through the British foster care system have grown up and finally found their forever homes behind bars. A British teenager is forced to spend 6 months in a psychiatric facility for an eating disorder until they determined that she actually had a rare medical condition that caused her to vomit 15 times a day. And a British couple is acquitted of murder by shaken baby syndrome after it is determined that the child had rickets, which was determined to be the cause of his death. In sports this week, another Penn State associate athletic director is fired for speaking publicly about the Jerry Sandusky sex abuse scandal without authorization. And in Washington, a former high school basketball coach is fired for an ethical violation after asking a student if he was going to Sandusky a classmate. In Florida, George Zimmerman, who was accused of killing a boy in a community crime watch shooting, gets out of jail on a $150,000 bond, and his defense team is worried about his personal safety. In Arizona, a wannabe adoptive mother goes on trial for killing a little boy in her care. In Indiana, a foster father is accused of sexually abusing 2 foster kids who had been placed in his care. In Washington, a CPS agent who licensed foster homes is busted for possession of child porn. A California foster father gets 16 years for having sex with a foster child. And in Texas, another arrest is made in the stealing of $20,000 worth of Christmas presents last year that were to be destined for foster kids. In Georgia this week, a cop handcuffs a kindergartner for throwing a tantrum in school and hauls her off to the police station. In Indiana, police are considering pressing charges after a 10-year-old was mistakenly served an alcoholic beverage in an Olive Garden restaurant. In New York, the court rules that a nurse who was fired for reporting child abuse can sue, and a $12,000 reward is issued for information leading to the finding of a missing New York City foster kid. In Maine, the state Supreme Court sides with a father after his rights were improperly terminated after the kid was removed from the mother. In Michigan, a couple who was denied custody of their grandson was asked to take in somebody else's kids as foster parents. And finally, tonight in Texas, a desperate to adopt woman who recently had a miscarriage shoots a mother outside of a pediatric hospital and takes off with her baby. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK. Over and out.